reality sets in, and we're here.
Respect isn't given, it's earned in blood.
Boxing King Media, delighted to be joined on this Sunday morning with Mr. Duke McKenzie, three-weight world champion, British boxing legend. As always, a pleasure catching up with you about the weekend's action. You good, Duke?
Yeah, champ, I'm really well, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on again. Excuse me.
Yeah, but looking forward to getting your reaction to last night's drama. I've got to ask you, in the build-up to the fight last night, Fabio Wardley, Joseph Parker, I didn't meet anyone that said Fabio was going to win. Most people said, "Oh, puncher's chance, puncher's chance." Nobody said he'll do what he did. What did you think beforehand?
Beforehand, I never gave him a chance. Now, Joseph Parker's a world-class operator, as you know, and he's been treading water now for some time, waiting to get his world title fight. And when you look at the caliber of boxer he's been fighting to the caliber of boxer that Wardley's been fighting, it was like a one-horse race. I thought Parker would beat Fabio Wardley quite comfortably, but potentially stop him late. But that wasn't the case. And Parker, for me, the only thing that disappointed me about Parker was he threw it away because tactically got his tactics all wrong. I know in heavyweight boxing, all heavyweights hit hard, but Fabio Wardley's on a great run of knockouts, right? Just knocking everyone out. Anybody they put in front of me blows them out the water, whether it's early or whether it's late. So Parker, the disappointment came from Parker was that if you know you're in with a big puncher, he came in, was at a career heaviest, I think he came in, right? What's that all about? I've always stated the fact that bigger doesn't make you stronger, bigger makes you slower and more tired. And I couldn't really work that one out. And why he chose to just have a fight with Fabio Wardley, who's a noted puncher. Again, red flag. I don't get it. I don't know why. I don't know why he's done it. So he threw that one away for me. He threw it away. I think he had the beating of Wardley, but he didn't beat him. So Wardley's gone on now, got himself an absolute fabulous win against a world-class fighter. So I never spoke to anybody that said Fabio Wardley would win that fight. I talked to my brother a lot about fights, about boxing, because my brother's probably more knowledgeable than I am, and he never gave Fabio Wardley a shot last night. I never gave Fabio Wardley a shot last night. So, but great for Fabio Wardley. Got himself a great win. And now he's been calling out the big boy, Alexander Usyk. Now, when we start talking about levels, Usyk's on another level. And, I have written him off before, Fabio Wardley. And, I'd write him off again if he was to fight Usyk. But as I did say before, several months ago, when Wardley beat Fraser Clark, and I said that Wardley would probably be the only person on the planet right now who would even make a dent in Alexander Usyk. I stand by that. He'd give him a fight because you know what you got in Fabio Wardley. You got a big, strong, mature man, not a boy, a mature man who knows how to go these rounds, who goes into like rounds 9, 10. Rounds 11 in big fights. So he knows, he has that experience. And what I will say about Fabio Wardley, he's had to learn the hard way. He's had to learn on the job. Doesn't have any amateur pedigree. White collar's not the same. And it tells you one or two things about the heavyweight division also is that the heavyweight division, if you take out guys like Hooney and Cabello and Wardley and Atelma, take those four out, those 4 or 5 guys out of the heavyweight division. We're not talking about the ex-champions, in Fury or Joshua. We're not talking about the ex-champions, and we're not talking about the likes of a Chisora or a Dillian White. We're talking about the young guys, the fresh guys that are still in the heavyweight shake-up. Take those guys out. Heavyweight division ain't in great shape. Really not in great shape. But what what the promoters have managed to do is to get all these guys, fighting one another. So it looks really, really sexy and it looks really, really glamorous, which is great for the sport of boxing because that's what you want to see. The best fighting the best. And that's what we're getting particularly in the heavyweight division.
Just a couple of questions to rewind back on. Obviously, I don't agree with this narrative, but there's some narratives out there that Joe's recent wins were slightly flattering because people talk about the fact that Bacoli rocked up at 24 hours notice, Wilder was maybe too old, and prior to that was Zhang, who obviously then got stopped by Cabello as well. People saying that he's not that good, but obviously this is just a narrative out there. I want to ask your opinion on that. Was them wins flattering, or was them wins deserve the credit that they got?
No, they deserve the credit that they got because Bacoli was knocking everybody out until he walked into Parker, right? Then Parker done a number on him. Zhang also had a couple of good wins on his resume until Parker got hold of him, and then he turned him on his head. So I don't really like people that put other fighters down like that when they look at the fighters that they've beaten, because you can only beat what's put in front of you. It may have been a little bit different had he beaten Cabello. It may have been different had he beaten Hooney. May have been different if he'd have beaten let me just think, Atalma. These sort of guys. But he didn't. The path that he took, that's why you got a promoter and a manager. They choose your fights and your career path to direct you in the right direction for you, so that you get the right experiences. And when you do get the world title fight, you're ready for it. I feel sorry for Parker because he's been treading water, crying for a world title fight, begging for a world title fight, which he'd clearly earned because he'd beaten a good array of a few good contenders that we just mentioned. He'd beaten these guys. He deserved the world title fight. But now that world title fight is as far off the Richter scale now as it's ever been. He hasn't got 6-8 months to rebuild. So he's got to pray that maybe USYK gets stripped of one of the titles or two of the titles. And if a couple of the belts come up for grabs, then he might find himself back in a position where he might walk into a vacant title fight.
I want to speak to you about the actual stoppage, which has been a talking point. But I've seen Ben Davison's come out and said that there was a moment earlier in the fight where he felt that the fight could have got stopped. Then where Joe's mouthpiece fell out, and he feels that the referee didn't handle that moment correctly. So I just want to ask you about that moment and also the actual ending. Was it a fair stoppage, and was the referee incorrect in what happened earlier on?
Well, the gum shield coming out is an old trick, right? You get hit, you get hurt, you spit your gum shield out. Buys you a few more seconds to get your head clear if that was what's happened. The gum shield did come out, and that's what it looked like to me. Just an old trick, really, to buy the fighter more time. Was the stoppage right? A little bit premature in my book. A little bit premature. He was hurt, no doubt. Went back to the ropes. Sure. Was he wobbled? I mean, did he look like he was going down at that point? He was still on his feet. He was still on his feet. Referees do have a tendency to stop fights earlier now rather than later. They have to have the boxer's best interest at heart. So, in my opinion, shouldn't have been stopped because he was still on his feet. Was he taking a barrage of punches at that time? No, he wasn't, because Fabio Wardley was swinging shots at him and 9 out of 10 were missing. He was just letting his hands go. They were both so tired at that point. A clean shot, a solid clean shot, and you'd have gone, yeah, jump in, stop the fight, no doubt. But nothing was hitting him cleanly. Didn't get, bang, crash, and it was like that. The shots were just missing him or just glancing off of him. There wasn't that definitive shot to say, you know what, that's enough. But referee's there to do a job. He done his job, what he considered to be the right thing to do.
Last two questions for you. Is it about time fans and people in boxing put some respect on Fabio Wardley's name? Because every time in the last 3-4 fights, he's always been put down as the underdog. Like even his own promoter, Eddie Hearn, who was promoting him up until recently, has picked against him for the last 3 fights. Ultimately, however it's happened, he's smoked everyone his foot, if you like that phrase. So yeah, is it about time we put some respect on Fabio Wardley's name?
Well, listen, he should have put respect to his name when he battered Fraser Clark. That was a shocking knockout. And like I say, from that point there, he was certainly on my radar. Because like I say, Alexander Usyk, for me, doesn't have a legitimate, good, world-class fighter that you can go, you know what, this guy's going to give me a fight. You see what I mean? But in Fabio Wardley, who's a mature, and I don't use that term lightly because everybody that they talk about right now fighting Usyk, they're 20 years old or 21. Most of the time, all these young guys who that Usyk's going to beat because he has the experience to beat these guys. They don't have the pedigree. But when you look at Wardley, ticks a lot of boxes. Not saying he beats Usyk, gives him a good fight. And that's what you want to see. You want to see Usyk in some kind of a fight where, he's pushed. So we see the best of Alexander Usyk, which we saw in his last fight when he battered Daniel Dubois, right? We saw the best of Alexander Usyk, the no-nonsense type. And heavyweight boxing is the richest prize in sport. And when you see heavyweight boxing at its best, then it's more than entertainment, because you get the skill factor, which Alexander Usyk has. But with Fabio Wardley, like I say, you got to nail that boy to the floor. You're not just going to beat him. You got to nail, you're going to have to knock him out. So if Usyk does beat him, which I'm sure he would, you got to expect him to knock him out, because Usyk now is in a very no-nonsense kind of mood. He proved that in the Dubois fight. Just went out there and he just cleaned him out. So he'd have that same attitude with Wardley. But you see, where Alexander Usyk is smart, not going to trade off with Wardley in the first couple of rounds when he's at his strongest, and let the guy punch himself out. And I don't even know how well Wardley would fare against a world-class southpaw. Different gravy.
Okay, last question for you. Maybe you can answer this from your not just your time in boxing, maybe life experience. I always heard this cliche that people in suits and people who come from like good upbringings, jobs, etc. The way comparing them to somebody who's come from hardship in the ring, the person that comes from hardship has more hunger, more desire, more grit, more heart, more resilience. If you talk about Fabio Wardley, people talk about a guy in suits. He used to work in an office. I asked him this last night, but he couldn't really answer it because he was still kind of taken back by his win. But where do you think he finds this resilience from? Because he was hurt a lot of times in that fight. Like there was moments where he thought Joe was going to stop him, but he always found a way out. And ultimately, in the last two fights now, we've seen him find ways out and knock the other man out. Where's he getting that from?
Well, he may have gone to work in a suit, but that guy's he's like a dog. He's like a pit bull. He's got that sort of resilience in him, really. A lot of heavyweights do have that, who will dig in where they have to. He's got that in him. Where does he find it from? It's got to be his upbringing, surely. I'm not sure what his upbringing is with his parents and one thing and another, but he's got that real sort of devil about him where he's not taking no for an answer. You can't tell him he's not going to be champion of the world. You can't tell him that, when you get hit with a shot, you're supposed to cover up. It's almost like when he gets hit with a shot, he sticks his chin out again and goes, go on, do it again. Because Parker hurt him several times in that fight. And you could see him bite down his gum shield, and then he sort of called him on and said, let's go, let's fight. And he wanted to fight. So he's got that real fighting spirit in him, which again, can't be bought or taught. It's just in you. Some fighters have got it. Some fighters don't have it. So, but I'm pleased for him that he has that, because it makes him exciting to watch.
Indeed. Well, that's it really. I think you've answered everything I wanted to ask you, Mr. McKenzie. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on, and I'll let all the fans know if you want to train with Duke and learn some experience from him and his life experience and time in boxing. He's got a gym in London. Just hit up on Google Duke McKenzie gym in London. It'll come up. It's somewhere in the south of London.
Absolutely. It's funny you should say that. I've just had a guy join my gym who's been watching us on your station. That's joined my gym.
Yes. Oh, amazing. You got one person in.
Yeah. So thanks for that, champ.
That's made my day. That's made my day, because I'm always doing it because I always like to help people out from my point of view as well. So I'm glad. So if anyone else is listening, follow that chap. And if he's listening today, thank you for taking up the advice, and I hope you enjoy your time with Duke.
Appreciate you, champ. Thanks, mate. God bless. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Cheers, champ. God